Which one is it? No. Purple circle. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now King is mad. Uh-oh. Look, King. Look, King. No. No. Look at you. Come here. King. Sit down. You're mad. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Uh-oh. Look in the mirror. He mad. Ooh. That's not how you express your anger. It is possible. It's a big no-no, too. Where's the purple circle? Where's the purple circle? King, where's the purple circle? Where's the purple circle? Purple circle. Find it. Which one? Purple circle. Which one is it? No. Sit down. Sit down. That is not how you get. No, baby. That's not how none of this works. Sit down. And calm your attitude. Calm your attitude. Because I don't care about you being mad. I can get mad too. Now calm yourself down. Where's the purple circle? Put it in there. Find it. Find it, King. Sit down. Find it. Which one is it? Yes. Good job. Where's the...
Yeah, so like people think growing up is over with after 18 and they have no idea. No, bitch, I have to deal with what happened to me in the first decade of that time. And I think that's how I ended up on so many goddamn couches telling people all my business. And I'm going to tell you like this, it really hit home when my child got diagnosed with autism. I basically had to teach my baby how to communicate. And I learned how important communication is. And not only is communication just talking, being able to talk, but it's also being able to understand, being able to comprehend. So, yeah, that's the podcast. That's it. Nothing more. Nothing less.
Hell yeah, KB.
You can hear the crowd sing along. Everybody know my songs. Had the crowd learn to walk. Country girl, small town. 14 years dedicated. Look, ma, I finally made it. Never thought I'd ever say it, but today I live my dreams. Bodyguards protecting me. Crazy fans, loud screaming, flashing lights on every scene. Autographs, lots of pictures, signs that say we love you, kitty. Superstar, my new status, fantasizing. Please don't wake me, let me finish with the dream. Don't wake me up.
Hola, it's another Tuesday, another 6 p.m. and you are locked and loaded to Kitty Pink Radio. I am your host, Kitty Pink. As you all know, I am a ASD mom. I don't think I can scream that loud enough on this podcast. I've shared the good, the bad, the ugly with you all. You all know that April is Autism Awareness Month. Y'all know that I go pretty hard this month. As a matter of fact, I'd like to remind everybody that King is having his little campaign. He, every year around this time, we sell bracelets as well as ribbons. If you buy a bracelet, the ribbon comes with the bracelet. And if you just like a ribbon, of course, the ribbon, you can purchase the ribbon on your own. All this month we'll be having guests who either work
in the industry or either are parents or caretakers, everybody that makes this community what it is, I want to share them with you, and I definitely want to highlight them. A lot of you have been following me for the past, it's been a while. It's been 9 years. I forgot. I've been advocating so long I done forgot. But a lot of you have been following us since the beginning of time, since King's diagnosis, since the first day that I realized something was going on with him. And I just want to make sure that you guys are still aware that we're still here 365. They only give us 31 days, but we are going through this 365, and there are a lot of awesome people who help us with the rotation of our lives. And today I have one with me. This right here is someone who is very, very important to King's every week, honestly. She spent a lot of time with him. Not only has she spent time with him, I always brag to you guys about everybody that is a part of Team Fight for King. And I get to share one of those special people with you today. This is King's OT. Her name is Kayla. Kayla, I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself. Kind of tell us about you.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Kayla. I'm an occupational therapist. Currently, I work with kids from 6 years old all the way up to adults into their 20s, 30s. So I have a pretty wide range of people that I see day to day. Right now, I go into people's homes for the most parts or anywhere in their natural environment. And in OT, we're working on helping people become more independent in their daily life, to do these things more safely, and to get them learning strategies to help them express themselves and communicate, and really just get people more engaged in their community. Yeah.
Awesome. So my question, everybody's question would be, what makes somebody want to be a part of this industry? It is very tiring. It does not pay as well as it should. What made you want to be the instrument to help people?
It started really young. My mom has always been a nurse, so I think she always instilled that caring aspect of things and working with people. She's worked in so many different settings, so she always has little tidbits of information, things to do, what not to do. And she always just had us involved in our community. From a young age, we were involved in, working in Special Olympics, volunteering certain places, just trying to give back to the community. And so as I went to school and some of these opportunities were offered in school, whether it was peer mentoring or being a peer buddy, and all the way back in elementary school, I was just thinking about that last night, kind of my first real one-on-one interactions with kids with disabilities. These are some of my peers, and I was thinking about them last night, that just, I think it started there, just meeting some of these kids, meeting some of these families, even super young, and I just always knew that I wanted to help. And by the time that I got to high school, I knew I did not want to be a nurse after hearing all those stories. I knew that I did not want to be a teacher. So I just started listening and researching and trying to figure out, who else comes in contact with these kids and these families. And I stumbled upon OT. I started learning about it. And from probably my freshman year in high school, I became super passionate about OT. I just started learning. I'm always researching. So I just put my pen to paper, started researching, looked into schools, and tried to figure out how to get it done. And it really has kind of worked out. Everything that I learned about it from back then, most of it is true and most of it I love. So
Right.
I've been really, blessed that I still am super passionate about what I do.
Right, right. Because I tell you all the time, like, we need more people like you because not everybody loves their job. A lot of people think, oh, it's going to be some easy money. And a lot of people, they get into it and basically they realize the books aren't going to actually help them with what they're going to have on their hands. There's another thing about you that I love. I watch you with the children, and it's as if they're your own. You really, really like love our babies. You love our babies like we love our babies, and like I that had to be instilled in you. Mommy had to instill that in you because not a lot of people are, I guess I could say, tolerant, for lack of better words. Like, how do you explain your patience? Because I'm a parent. And sometimes I just be like, Lord, take me now. Oh. So like, describe your patience, because I've sit back and I watched you, and it's like you do it effortlessly, and it's like, do you ever get tired? Do you ever get aggravated? Because I've seen you in action, and like, it's just it's something to see. It's something that every parent wants to see when they realize I'm trusting someone with my baby. So kind of give us, like, how do you stay patient?
So to answer the question in there about do I get frustrated every day? Probably every session, there's something that is frustrating. Of course, I want to help. And so every little thing that I bring to sessions, I hope, is a game changer, is a big help. And because I get so, invested with these kids, like you said, anybody that's worked with me, any of the families, they know I call all my kids as if they're my own. I love them and I'm always thinking about them, trying to figure out how I can best help them. And so that kind of carries over into my session. So I try to be really, diligent in what I bring to the sessions. I wish I could work with all of my kids, every day for
Right.
multiple hours a day. But in my current role, I get 1 hour a week. And so when I show up, I know that that's all the time that I have. And, 1 hour is longer than you get in some settings.
Right.
Being hands-on is more than you get in some settings. So I am really, lucky that I get that time. But I know when I get there that I have to be productive for those 60 minutes. And so during the sessions, when something doesn't work out, I really try to put, myself in the shoes of the person that I'm working with. Um, and again, I think that's really come from, my mom is a big like empath. She feels for other people, I think sometimes more than she feels for herself. And so she's always kind of showed us that, think about what they're going through, think about what they could be thinking about and feeling. So during my sessions, I just try to think about all of these things. We get a long history about the people that we work with, all the things that they've been through. And then you look at that paper and that's not the whole story, that's
Right.
not everything. So, there's always things that everybody's going through that we don't know about. So I just try to be patient with them. And then I think about, how often people aren't patient with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really work to overcompensate for that.
Right.
Um, I want all of my people that I work with to feel comfortable with me, to know that I'm going to keep showing up every single week, pretty much no matter what happens during that session.
Right.
I've had some, pretty interesting sessions as far as aggression, as far as throwing things, as far as them getting mad at me. I push the people that I work with very
Mm-hmm.
hard. So I expect the pushback, I think, too, is part of it. I go in knowing, they're probably not going to be happy with me
Right.
asking to do things that are hard, asking to do things that maybe nobody else asked them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps me to kind of think about it. I try to, and for me, I drive to people's homes. So in the car, a lot of times I'm thinking about it like, okay, what are we doing today?
Right.
What do I think is going to go well? What do I think is not going to go well? And usually
Right.
I have a pretty good idea of how that'll go. So that really, and it just comes from a place of caring. Like I said, I can't, I don't think I can put into words how I just love these kids and I love the families that I work with. And I think about my own family and friends and how I would want somebody to treat them.
Right.
And so that's what I try to do every day.
Right.
So that's the root of it, I think.
That's like I watch you. I don't say much, but I watch you like a hawk, and I just even when King, as y'all seen in that video earlier, at times King he can definitely be a work. He can definitely, he can push back, like she was saying. But even when he's like that with her, y'all, she stays here. She doesn't just give up and leave. Many of times I've told y'all about my struggles with the school and how I feel like they just want to give up on him instead of actually pushing him and working with him. And not just that, I've expressed to you guys how my mama, his uncles, and everybody else that's around us, that's babying him, they don't understand why I'm so tough with him. They feel like I should be soft or whatever. But no, it has a lot to do with my consistency. Because I mean, if I just let King have his way every time, he's going to know. All I got to do, pretty much with Kayla too, all I got to do is scream and cry and throw a fit and throw myself on the floor and hit myself, and they're going to comply. And so that's something else that I commend Kayla on. What are some of the things that how long have you been working in this particular field? I know you were working in a nursing home beforehand. This is your second year?
Yes, this will be my second year in the field as an OT. I just came up on my 1 year anniversary in my current role.
Right.
I worked a contract for a couple of months in the heat of COVID in a nursing home.
Right.
And prior to, I did clinical rotations in a hospital. I did a rotation in an inpatient rehab setting, all with adults. I thought that I wanted to work with adults.
I was about to ask, is it harder with adults, or would you say it's harder with the kids?
I think it really takes trying it because I went through school. I will say that my program in particular, I felt was geared a lot towards pediatrics. A lot of my classmates wanted to go into pediatrics, and so I think they, heavily focused on that. It's a big setting for us. And I went to school thinking, no way, I don't want to work with kids. I love working with kids. I was like I was saying, a peer mentor, a peer buddy. I was a care and respite attendant all through school. And so I didn't want it to become work. And so I thought, I don't want to work with kids. I'm not doing it. So I did no rotations with kids. I kind of blocked some of that out, in school, because I just thought, I know I'm not doing this.
Right.
And then I went to my clinical rotations. They were okay. I liked them. It's a lot different doing it in school when you're doing these things for a grade. You don't get to enjoy it as much,
Right.
but I enjoyed the hospital. I enjoyed rehab, but nursing homes are the other huge, huge setting for us.
Yeah.
So I came out thinking that's probably where I'll go. And it was okay. I didn't, it had its days, just like I think every job. But it's not just OTs and it's not just nursing homes. I think the healthcare field, the helping fields right now are just going through it in terms of, what's required and what they ask of you. So I think in every setting, we're feeling the heat, but I ended my contract. I didn't know really what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. I had moved to Texas on a whim, so I had a lot of push from my family to go back home. And I stumbled across this job, and I thought, this sounds like exactly what I want to do.
Right.
And it was just, right time, right place, just truly a blessing.
And it
I've just
has,
loved it.
not just on your behalf, but you've been a blessing to me and my son. Y'all know I be going through it. I talk about it all the time on my podcast, the struggles of being an ASD mom and a single ASD mom. But there are people who come into our lives, and I just feel like it was all destined. You were supposed to come to Texas, and by the grace of God, we were one of your first families. And I hope we did we did good. I hope we ain't scared you out for nothing like that yet. But my son absolutely adores you. He loves you. The reason I brought up the question about how long you've been working in this field, period, was I wanted to ask you a question. What's one of the things that you, if you could change single-handedly, what would you say it would be?
About the field?
Yes.
In a perfect world, we would be able to use our judgment and use all of that schooling and money that we paid, and time that we offered to, use our judgment to see people how we best see fit, for as long as we see fit, and to be able to help as much as I think we can. But there's, limitations in terms of billing. There's limitations in terms of insurance and how long you're able to see people and how many times a week. So that can be tough and that can be tiring, and this is kind of speaking as a whole, because my current position, I have a lot of flexibility, and a lot more autonomy to kind of say, this is what I think is best. And they say, okay. But in a lot of other places, it's not like that. And I know that a lot of, burnout comes from that, because most people, I think, that come into these fields, they want to help. And so we put a lot of time and effort in, and sometimes we don't get to really put it all into production. So that would be the biggest thing that I would change, is that we could just, say, I want to see this person 3 times a week for 2 hours and work on these things. And, there's no pressure of, you've got to see 25 people or 30 people and you've got to meet these percentages, which I know they're there for good reason. They don't want people just seeing one person for 40 hours a week or not doing what they're supposed to do. But I know that is a big issue right now, is kind of the numbers game, pushing a lot of numbers, trying to get the highest rates and money and things like that, which we don't have a lot of hand in, but we do then kind of have to follow it, on the back end.
Right. So let's say us, just us civilians out here who aren't working in that field, is there anything that we could do to maybe even push that narrative?
I know that, there's a lot of advocacy that goes on within the profession, advocating to our, the AOTA is our Occupational Therapy Association for the United States. We've also got the NBCOT, that's the board that certifies all of us. And so there are ways to advocate. I know within the profession, I'm not entirely sure outside of the profession. I'm sure, writing letters and all of those things could, go to work. But I know it's tough to go up against these, insurance companies and the industry. It's tough to go up against them. There have been some changes in years past that take a long time. So it's really just, going to these boards, coming from, I think, calling your representatives, voting, all of those things, because we have both, federal laws that we abide by and also state laws. So it really does come all the way down to a local level of, thinking about the big issues, and then also thinking about things like this, about healthcare, about those serving the community, because all of those things that get put into place eventually do affect us. We had recent changes within the last couple of years that kind of changed billing rates and how minutes and hours and things were kind of dished out. And that was probably a couple of years ago, and it's still kind of affecting, I know, the profession as a whole. So it's really just those little things that sometimes are hard because it doesn't feel like things are happening, just yet, but they do eventually. Somebody, I think, will listen eventually.
Y'all hear it from the mouth of a professional themselves. Let's help these babies. Let's get on top of it. Let's do what we can do on the outside. My next question is, a lot of parents, I tell parents all the time that in the school therapies are just as important as the outside therapies. Matter of fact, me personally, I feel like the outside therapies are more effective. Can you tell those parents that are looking today that may have just, stepped into this, what's the difference between outside therapy versus school therapy?
I'm a little bit biased because I work in the community, so I think that working in the community is very important. But I love my school therapists because they are a lot of times willing to work with community therapists, so everybody can kind of be on the same page. In school, I know that for the most part, they work particularly on skills for educational or academic success. So you're going to get for OTs those things like writing skills, emotional regulation skills, mainly towards being able to sit, in a seat for an extended period of time and do your work. So we're talking mostly skills that directly are going to affect academics. And we know that while the kids do spend, a good part of their time at school, that's not the only place that they spend their time. So while some of these things that they work on in school might affect what's going on at home or outside of school, I'm a big, advocate for therapies in the natural environment. So I think they're great supplements to each other because, these kids, they do need support at school, but I think they also need support at home.
At home as well, right?
Because we know the challenges a lot of times carry over across environments.
Yes.
For the most part, it's not just a kid that's going to school and having trouble. A lot of times if they're having trouble at school, they're having trouble at home too and in other environments. So I love being able to come into the home, observe the natural environment. I go to school. I do go to school sometimes if that's where they're struggling, because that's another thing is we know that kids a lot of times age out of these services. They don't always get the services for years and years. You don't see a lot of kids in school OT up until, middle school and high school, because they've aged out of writing skills at that point. They've aged out of sitting in their seat at that point. So, they kind of stop there. So in the community, we do get a little bit more leeway in what we're able to help with. And that's how I'm able to see older kids and even adults, because they can write their name now or can't, because some kids, they age out and they haven't even met those goals, but I can kind of help with some of those latter skills that we need all the time. So both are important.
Something that aggravates me, because I've talked to several parents, and that's something that they're facing now that their children are getting older. The whole aging out situation. I feel like if it's on paper that you're saying that they have the mentality of a toddler or, you know, a 10-year-old or whatever, there shouldn't be a limit. The help should always be there. It's almost like you tell somebody, I'm gonna get you all the way to Chicago, and you get them at the the state line and just drop them off and leave them there. That's what it is, for lack of me being able to explain it any other way. That's what it feels like to me. You get them to a certain point and you leave them there. That's also something that I think that we should all get together and advocate for. I do not feel like they should be aging out. Those children still deserve the insurance, the therapies, all of that stuff. And then not just that, by that time, we all know that you have to keep autistic kids or any of those kids that are on the spectrum, Down syndrome, any type of special disabilities. You have to keep them in routine of certain things, and they're looking forward to that on a daily basis. So whenever you uproot them and just snatch them out of those programs that they love, like, I mean, like Kayla's saying, it's almost like those kids are hers, and I feel like the kids feel like she's theirs as well. So like, just snatching them out of that environment is just so cruel. And I hope that this show crosses somebody who has the power to do something about its desk, because, you know, it's not right. My next question is, what would you tell someone who'd like to be a part of this industry, just getting into it? What advice would you give them?
My advice would be to volunteer or shadow in a place with an OT or something similar. Even just starting out, you know, in a classroom with kids with special needs, or whichever setting that you're planning on getting into. Shadow there, get your feet in there, see it, because these jobs look a lot different on paper than they do in real life. You know, they don't, even in school, they don't tell you all of the, you know, nitty gritty things. And, you know, they're as transparent as they can be, I think, for the most part. But it's impossible to know all of the little things until you get in there. Do your research on schools. Find the best route to get to school without taking out as much money as you have to.
Right.
A lot of these jobs, they want the degree. They don't really look at the school as much. So I would say, you know, do your research on affordable schools that don't put you into a lot of debt. There's ways to do it. Do the schools want you to know that? I don't know. Probably not.
Of course not.
I won't point the finger, but they, you know, just do your research, because there are a lot of schools, there are a lot of programs that you've never heard of, probably, that can get you to the same position as, you know, a big school, a really expensive school. And then also just take everything into account. You know, when you go to these places, make sure that you're watching these people and observing from what you can see yourself doing, because there are some things, you know, that might be deal breakers for people. You know, working in the hospital, if you can't handle blood, even though we're not nurses, we're not doing any of that stuff, you will see it. You know, if you can't handle, you know, helping people go to the bathroom, if you're going to be uncomfortable, some of it you can work through. I will say, you know, I didn't love all of this stuff before I started out. So there is room to grow, but just being mindful of your own, you know, personal limitations and things. And that you have to care, and you have to care about the people that maybe don't even care themselves, or they don't know how to help themselves, because there are those people too. You know, I love when I go somewhere and the family is super involved and the patient is involved and they want to, you know, do everything and it's all going well. But in the same breath, it's just as rewarding to go to a place where they don't really want your help. They're not really interested. They've done all these services before. And to show them something new, show them something different, and maybe get a result, maybe just get a smile out of them. Just show up every week and keep going, because you'll have those people that show up on your caseload. It's not all people that signed up and want to do this. So just keeping that in mind, you have to really kind of be a people person, learn how to get in well with people, make good impressions. You don't have to be an extrovert. I'm definitely an introvert. But when it comes to these families, I find ways to get in there, to learn about them, to gain their trust. So you have to be willing to do that and push, and know when to push, know when not to push. So that's a lot to say. The biggest one though is caring, because if you care about what you're doing and you're passionate about it, you'll do all of these other things easily. So that's the biggest one.
Okay. We get ready to wrap it up. My last question, and this is a question that I'll be asking everybody every week this month. If there was one thing, although there are a plethora of things that people could be aware of, what is the one thing that you feel like everybody should be aware of when it comes to ASD?
I think the biggest thing that I try to tell everyone is to just remember that everybody that you work with is a person just like you, and that their needs are just like ours. A lot of their desires are just like ours. Even if they don't say, I need connection or I need this, they do. They need connection. There's so many misconceptions with autism, and plenty of disabilities that they can't make personal connections, they can't show love, and they can't show affection, and it's just not true. It's shown in different ways. It's shown in different, I teach kids. I don't teach kids how to talk, of course, because I leave that to my speech therapist. But I teach them ways to functionally communicate, whether it's a high five, a fist bump. So just being open to understanding these kids, outside of the box, and just really don't limit them, to what you can see, because, just go in with an open mind and thinking that, this kid is smart. They know probably way more than I'm giving them credit for. How can I get it out of them? That's what I go in with. I don't just say, oh, well, they didn't read this word. That means they probably can't read.
Exactly.
It's they probably can. Or if they can't, let's figure out how to get them to a place where they can.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kayla, so much. Thank you for your contribution to the community. If anybody comes across Kayla, I just want you to know firsthand, as someone that she works for, she is definitely a treat. You'll definitely see some type of results, and I just like it when she comes back and then King does something new. And she's, excited, and because I feel like that's more your reward than any thank you I could give you or anything like that. So I appreciate you taking out the time to come and do this interview with me. I just want everybody to see every aspect of autism, because a lot of times people just, it's all on the parents, and we do a lot, but there are people who are put in place who are placed in our lives to help us get that stuff done. This has been another epic episode of Locked and Loaded. Everybody put your hearts in the comments for Kayla. Let's show Kayla some love. And next week we'll have another guest. We'll be here spreading more autism awareness. I am your Auntie Kitty. It has been another epic episode of Locked and Loaded. I love you all. I want you to love yourselves. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Girl, I'm dripping.